But yeah, we are broadcasting live everywhere. If you guys want to join the show, you can just raise your hand. If you're in Clubhouse, come up. As long as you have a bio, you can talk. You can comment. I can display your comment, just like we were doing earlier. See, Christine said it wasn't on Facebook either. Yeah, it's a microphone setting, so it should all be working now. It just reset on me, so I don't know what's happening. All right, but without further ado, the whole reason why this show is here is to talk about exactly what's happening in the industry and what's happening in the real estate market as a whole. So if you know others that would benefit from hearing it, please share the show with them. Today, let's just dive right into what's happening with the veterans. So a lot of you may have heard, unless like this is your first time ever tuning into anything real estate in the last 2 years, then you know about this lawsuit that was happening that basically NAR and Anywhere, Keller Williams, what was the other big one? Remax, and just about any broker that did over $2 billion in business was being sued for collusion and basically inflating commissions by the seller offering to pay buyer agent compensation fees. So that's the really short version of it, rephrased version. Well, one issue with that is that if sellers don't offer any compensation, because there was in some MLSs, they would say you have to offer some compensation in order to post your property in this MLS. You got to offer something to the buyer agents. Now, the MLSs argued that could be zero. The MLSs and the board said it could be $1, but you got to offer something. So anyway, the veterans have not been allowed to pay their own real estate agent fees until June 11th, 2024. So this story just came out and was one of the early things that we said, hey, this lawsuit is not going to help home buyers. It's going to hurt home buyers, particularly veterans that now cannot afford to have they weren't allowed at the time, I guess, to have their own representation because they couldn't pay for them. And I don't know very many agents that are going to work for free. So now it says Veterans Affairs removes compensation hurdle for military buyers. Now, this is a temporary policy allowing VA home buyers to compensate their real estate agents directly. So the department says it'll determine whether formal rulemaking is necessary, which I guess it would. This is probably just the first step. So under the new VA's temporary policy, eligible veterans, active duty service members, and surviving spouses will use their VA home loan benefits. They can pay for certain real estate buyer broker fees when purchasing a home. Now that's it. I mean, pay for certain real estate buyer broker fees. This update is intended to ensure VA's programs to continue to promote access to home ownership for veterans. What's up, Andy?
Hey, so first, this doesn't take effect until August 10th. When all the other stuff for NAR, DOJ is supposed to take effect.
Okay.
Also, it does state in there that it's buyer agent commissions and other brokerage fees on the buyer side. Yeah, some of the agents would charge, or brokerages would charge a transaction fee or a technology fee, something of that nature. It's usually a few $100. They would push. The veteran buyer currently cannot pay it based off of the guidelines. When this takes effect, that goes away temporarily.
Okay. So that's good. Do you think they're going to I guess they're going to have to put some kind of permanent rule in place if this sticks around.
Yes.
Right?
So this is getting around the law, right? The VA guidelines are CFRs. It's law. So we know that Congress doesn't move very fast sometimes, or most of the time, depending on what it is.
No.
Yeah. But I do think this is a great opportunity for me as a veteran, other veterans, agents, loan officers, to voice their opinion directly to the VA, but it also gives the VA an opportunity to see how well this goes over so that it will guide them in making the permanent change, which is probably going to take a couple of years to do so.
Okay.
The one thing I do want to throw out there, especially since we have SCAP on here, okay, everybody, usually the biggest complaint you hear about a VA loan is low appraisals, right? And I think that's just, there's that notion out there, but I don't think it's founded. The appraisals are usually good. You just hear about the bad ones that happen occasionally. But what they are stating is that if a buyer brokerage agreement is in effect, the veteran buyer is coming to pay the buyer brokerage commission, then that buyer broker agreement has to be a part of the purchase and sale agreement that goes to the loan officer and to the lender, and it will be a part of the package that goes to the VA when they order the appraisal, which tells me that that commission, the lender has to account for it as well, because they got to have the money to pay for it. So that's got to be a part of the accounting for the finances. But then, if the appraiser is going to see that, how is the appraiser going to look at that? Because you do have certain fees that they do look at, and usually it's the concessions that a seller could give to a buyer if it's negotiated.
Right.
But why are they giving that over to the appraiser? Is an appraiser going to review that and look at it and go, okay, in this case, the buyer is paying it when all the other ones weren't. So is there going to be an adjustment in value because of that?
That's a good question. Scap, do you know, is there an early word on how appraisers will view compensation, specifically VA?
No, that sounds interesting though, what Eddie just said there, because I mean, obviously compensation doesn't factor into anything that we do. I mean, they might have to send it over to actually separate it out and have the appraiser probably see it so that they can separate it out, knowing that that's compensation versus a concession. So, I mean,
right.
That's going to be interesting.
Well, it's always assumed that it's already baked in because you don't know where the compensation is coming from. Now, in general, it does come from the seller side, but the seller gets those funds from the buyer and the loan that they're taking out. So it's financed in there, right? So now they're going to go in and say, hey, this isn't going to be financed in there any longer, or at least in certain cases, it's not going to be financed in there. So is that going to be adjusted out because they see that? Because if you get a house that's been on the market for above average time frame and they finally get an offer and you see the appraiser does their investigation on the comps and find out that the seller has paid the compensation to the buyer side.
Right.
But in this case, the house that sat on the market longer didn't. To me, that gets into the marketability of the home. So where's the value in the marketability if that doesn't happen?
That's kind of what we're saying too. Whenever we show up at someone's house, and I've only had one client so far that said I don't want to offer anything to a buyer agent. And when they said that, I was like, okay, well, all of the comps that we're currently comparing your home to, we're offering compensation. So I think we would probably have to adjust this estimation of where you're going to sell down. And he said, well, I don't want to do that. So I'm like, well, if you put 3% burden or a 2% burden or whatever it is back onto the buyer, then the likelihood of them purchasing your home where you currently have it listed is low. So yeah, that's interesting.
Right. And I think this and they do address in the document that this is because they're calling it a local variance because of how certain MLS's boards and brokerages are affected by the NAR DOJ settlement. That's how they're getting around the law. This is a local variance. So let's say Northwest MLS, who isn't going through any of these shenanigans,
right?
I don't know how this is going to affect them as well because they're not necessarily going to have that because they're not going to fall in line with the DOJ settlement.
Well, and it only comes up when you have a seller that says I'm not paying. That's when it comes up. So in NWMLS, they may still have sellers on there because they're off. They just say they say you can show how much you want to offer. They don't say you have to. So there's still probably going to be sellers on there that don't do it. And so this is going to come up for them, but it's a bit of a wait and see, but at least, we said this, what is it, last year? I feel like it was forever ago, where I talked about these glaring holes that right now the NAR settlement has. Veterans were one of them. The other one, though, has still not been addressed. And that is those folks who are trying to purchase their first home. They don't have money to pay for their own representation. And by not letting the listing agent offer any of their compensation, basically collecting let's pretend it's 6% and then splitting that with the buyer agent to cover the buyer agent's compensation. If you don't let that happen, then you are also in a situation where you could have an entire community be discriminatory very easily. And so anyone that is, doesn't have the means to pay for their own agent now has to go directly to that seller or directly to the listing agent who may be in on the gig. So that's
you may or may not know that.
Yeah, that's still a huge issue.
Yeah, you may or may not know that because that's not going to be locked in the MLS on how that worked out when the property closes, because now they're stating that you cannot even show that, which to me is against transparency. But at the same time, DOJ has absolutely stated that they do not want sellers to pay buyer agent commissions ever at all. They want that to completely go away. Which now apparently there are sellers out there pursuing the DOJ. I heard that this morning. I haven't seen anything on it.
I haven't seen anything on that one.
Somebody apparently is trying to sue the DOJ, saying you can't tell me how I want to sell my house and how I want to look at it.
Now there is an article. Let me switch the order here and just go to this next one. So there is an article about a proposed. Where is it? All right, let me go to this one. So this one's on Inman, and it says proposed DOG. That's dog. Proposed DOG ban on commission offers against the law, MLS says. So this is from MLS Penn, and they're kind of the second or third MLS now to start fighting back against the DOJ/NAR settlement. Now the DOJ is saying they don't want any commission to be listed in the MLS at all. And the MLS Property Information Network, MLS Penn, urged Judge Patty B. Saris to reject the DOJ's argument against the settlement and approve the deal, saying that the federal agency's proposed total ban on commission offers from sellers to brokers, both on and off the MLS itself, violates antitrust law and First Amendment free speech provision. DOJ's policy position not only goes far beyond what antitrust law requires, it also creates an antitrust problem for MLS Penn where none existed. MLS Penn cannot enter into an agreement to ban the publication of free market compensation offers without offending the very antitrust principles DOJ claims to be protecting. To impose such a ban through a federal injunction would also suppress speech that is protected under the First Amendment right. I thought that's an interesting take I haven't thought of. It's basically they're saying the seller has the right to not only offer the compensation, but shout it from the rooftops and say, here's the compensation we're offering. And that's their right to speech. That's an argument I did not think of. The DOJ never denies that sellers have the right to compensate brokers. It only advocates arbitrary restraints on the communication of compensation offers. But the payment of buyer broker commissions has long been legal. Let's talk about the Massachusetts rule then. Let's see. The filing goes on to say that crucially, nothing in the proposed settlement between the plaintiffs and MLS Penn would limit the DOJ's ability to pursue changes to the real estate market practices in Massachusetts or anywhere else through legislative advocacy or administrative rulemaking. So basically, they're saying the DOJ may want this rule, but if they want this rule, they have to go change the law. They can't just try to impose this rule with some kind of policy or through the courts. Interesting. I like the argument, and we'll see if the MLS Penn wins. MLS Penn was involved in the Nosalic, Nosalek. It's actually Nosalic. The Nosalic case. That differed from the other cases in that the NAR was not named, but the MLS was. So we have 3 MLSs now fighting back. Doing the job that NAR probably should have done. Sorry.
Still waiting for a board to do it.
Yeah, that would be great. A local board? Oh, man. All right, so the lawsuit's still not over. Seller who balked at inadequate payout appeals commission deal. So if you recall, the Anywhere, Keller Williams, and Remax settlements cannot be resolved in full until the appeals are complete. And we have another appeal. Pennsylvania home seller Springway Center is seeking to overturn the court approval of deals reached with Anywhere, Keller Williams, and Remax to resolve the antitrust commission. Basically, they're saying that they're not making enough money from it. That's the array of phrase version of this. This amount is grossly disproportionate to the appropriately adequate. Wait, hang on. This amount is grossly disproportionate to the amount appropriate to adequately compensate the enormous number of injured parties, attorneys for the company wrote. Springway Center said the proposed settlement. So whenever you see this, I guess you guys know this, but whenever you see something bracketed, it means they corrected it. So the author of the article picks out like 4 words from their statement, and 2 of them are misspelled, so they corrected them with the little with the little brackets. So Springway Center said the deal is woefully insufficient considering the franchisor's huge profits. So for the company, noted that Realogy's earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation and amortization was $5.8 billion during the total damages period from 2015 to 2013. This enormous EBITDA resulted in large measure from illegal price fixing, the filing says. Now remember these were all settled, so they didn't actually say like, oh, the judge didn't really say you're in for it now. So these are settled, so they never admitted any kind of wrongdoing. Remarkably, the proposed settlement amounts to 1.4% of the company's EBITDA. Similarly, Remax has also reported a positive EBITDA, adjusted net income, and free cash flow of $928 million over the damages period. However, the proposed settlement in the amount of $55 million is inexplicably a paltry 6%. I like the words their attorney uses. The proposed compensation to class members of the brokerage firms amounts to $10.43 and is likely less for each member. Even if the purported National Association of Realtors settlement is included, each class member would receive no more than $31.33. $31.33. Furthermore, plaintiffs seek to recover approximately $12 million spent by them on the Burnett trial for the aggregate settlement amount. Hence the proposed settlement, particularly in light of the $1.78 billion Burnett verdict, which trebled amounts to $5.34 billion, is vanishingly small. Is that? They got away with words. They also said it's a free pass for franchisees. Franchisees don't have to pay. It's just the big corporations are the ones paying, and they're saying, well, the franchisees should also be the one paying. That's a take we haven't heard yet. Since entering into the settlement in October 20, that now they're saying that, Catchmark says we expected an appeal. They're ready for it. If anyone thinks this will allow them to delay the changes and continue to violate the law, they're wrong. So there you have it. It does delay the payment, but Catchmark saying it shouldn't delay the changes. Okay. What do y'all think of that? $33. What was it? $33.31. Yeah, $31.33. $31.33 is what each class member would receive. That's that's pretty poor. How much? I guess if 30% was added to that, that's what it would be if the attorneys didn't have their take, which is also not much, I guess. But man, yeah.
That's only like what, 6 gallons of gas. Enjoy it.
It's not even. It's not even 6 gallons. Oh yeah. Okay, I just did that. I was thinking 6 fill-ups. I was like, no, it's not even close. 6 gallons. Yes.
I can do math. I'm a good real estate agent. I can do really quick math.
Kinda. All right. So what do you do if you have a company? Let's say you have a company that basically takes a large portion of a real estate agent's compensation for sending them leads that you want them to close, right? And now most of them are buyer leads. And now that buyer agent compensation seems to be a little in a little trouble. What do? Well, Mike Dupree, he's got a great article about exactly what Zillow and Redfin are doing. They're investing for growth in mortgage. So loan origination volume and growth. You guys know Redfin bought, I can't remember what's the name of the company they bought. We'll get to that. But Zillow has also been doing loan originations. In Q1 of 2023, Zillow was right around, 220 million or so. And now they're just under $600 million in loan origination. Now, Redfin has gone down 2%. But you might recall, right now, there's a lot of people that are not getting a loan because of rates. So it is to be expected that most loan companies would go down way more than 2% during this period, but Redfin has only gone down 2%, has a much higher loan origination volume than Zillow. They're, what are they at, like 990 million? And Zillow is at 600 million. So Zillow is the standout, doubling its mortgage loan originator headcount over the past 14 months during a very difficult time to be in mortgage. You can see the chart there that shows from May 2021, it was right around just under the $200,000 line, and it started to go down. Never really went below 125 or so, 125 million. And no, those are loans. I'm sorry. Are those loans? No, that's more than loans. Mike, what is the line on the left side? I'm assuming it's 100 millions, but I could be wrong. But I thought they were closer to 600 on this chart. But now it's just showing on this chart, there's no dollar sign, but they're up to what is that? 275? So they're up to 275, but I don't know 275 what's. Is that the loan originators? Like how many people are working there? I guess mortgage loan originators, not originations. Right, duh. So that's the people that work there. Sorry. So in a down market, it's rare for a company to double its mortgage headcount. Yeah, those are the people. Sorry. But in one other company has done so. It's Better Mortgage. Hey, Better is back, Matt.
Hooray!
So if you recall, Better Mortgage was the company that I guess probably everyone in that company right now, if you get a Zoom link, you're a little worried because that's exactly how they let go of tons of employees back in the day. After shedding 1,000 mortgage loan originations during the dark days of 2022, Better is back, or at least investing for growth by doubling its mortgage loan originator headcount over the last year. So yeah, this is headcount. So Better Mortgage up 110%. Prosperity Home Mortgage is down 15%. Redfin is down 16%. Zillow is up 93%. So Redfin is, that's it. Bay Equity Home Loans. That's the company they acquired in 2022. Redfin has slowly shed mortgage loan originators since then. However, more MLOs correlates to more funded loans. Comparing the two portals over the last year, Zillow has more than doubled its loan origination volume, while Redfin has slightly declined. Redfin's mortgage loan business is still larger than Zillow's, but unlike Zillow, it's not growing. What I did notice, though, is that the decline in mortgage loan originators, let's see, it went down only 2%. Was that the number that was up here? No, that's the loan origination. So the loan origination growth was down 2%. That's what I mean. The loan originators for Redfin is down 16%. So you have less people doing more work currently. So I'm wondering if they're just kind of trimming the fat a little bit there. Because they still, like, if you run the numbers, you're still getting a much higher productivity per person now because the number of people is down 16%, but the number of loans originated is only down 2%. So you probably have, I don't know, maybe some refi department or something like that was, I don't know. So the bottom line, let's see, even in a down market, companies can uncover key insights to grow market share. Redfin's high debt, dwindling cash, and unprofitable core business makes it difficult for the business to invest for growth, especially compared to Zillow, which has billions in free cash. Billions in free cash. So that's a good article from Mike. If you don't get his emails, they're great. They have all these charts and stuff in those emails. All right, so what else is going on? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, so picture this. You're a landlord. You own a whole bunch of properties, right? You've been using this cool software that will intelligently tell you what you should list these different properties for. And the FBI raids your house. What? This is interesting. So the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, conducted an unannounced raid on national apartment operator Cortland Management. The raid was part of a ramped-up criminal antitrust investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice. According to the Tuesday article on Entrepreneur, the real target of this investigation was RealPage, a $9 billion Texas-based software company used by a corporate landlord like Cortland. RealPage recommends rent increases on millions of housing units across the country. So I guess they really didn't raid the house. They probably raided the office, but still. From what Cortland Management told the press, the FBI executed a limited search warrant at the company's Atlanta office as part of the DOJ's investigation into potential antitrust violations in the multifamily housing industry. So the question whether RealPage or corporate landlords are guilty of alleged rental price fixing conspiracy. Let's see, more than 16 million rental units in the U.S., about 22 million in total, use RealPage's Yield Star software. So this is the software that intelligently tells you where to price fix. Not price fix, where to set your prices. RealPage's impact on the rental market is most noticeable in Atlanta, Georgia, where pricing for over 80% of rentals is software-based. Since 2016, rents in the area have gone up by 80%, and higher vacancy rates have not brought any relief. According to multiple lawsuits filed in the last 2 years in California, Arizona, New York, and other states, the issue with RealPage is that YieldStar algorithm suggests rental price increases based on data collected from landlords, not based on demand. So in February 2024, the lawsuit announcement, Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays put it more clearly, saying that landlords were not competing at all. They were colluding with one another. So that's interesting. So basically, RealPage was gathering the data from what other landlords were doing and allowing the landlords to a kind of anonymously collude with each other to set prices in those markets. According to a DC lawsuit, 60% of area apartment buildings set prices based on RealPage's recommendations. In Phoenix, Arizona, companies relying on RealPage owned or managed 70% of apartment units. Wow. A report on ProPublica offers a glimpse on how YieldStar software works. All right, so this is how it works. Each day, the software recommends a new price for every available unit. To determine the new rate, it draws from competitor data on the actual tenants paid, as opposed to the publicly advertised rent. The use of private competitor data, though it is aggregated and anonymized to set prices, is one of the concerns experts raised. The practice could allow RealPage to stifle rental competition, they said, driving rents up across the country and potentially even violating antitrust rules. Experts said that RealPage also sponsors meetings to gather competitors together to talk about pricing, which could be a warning sign of collusion. So there's a couple of comparisons we can look at here. And one of them is comparative market analysis that real estate agents do to figure out what to price things for. We have landlords, we have really good property managers, and they do comparison analysis to see what things have rented for to figure out what they can rent their properties for. This was supposed to expedite that process and make it much easier for them to figure that number out. But interestingly, it seems like it stepped over a line. My question is, where is that line? For instance, if I had a computer software that could tell me, based on all of the homes that sold recently, where I should price this home that I'm about to put on the market, isn't that similar to this same type of collusion? I'm trying to figure out the difference in my head, and it's hard to figure out the difference. You could say, well, all the sellers in this neighborhood are colluding because they're comparing their prices, but then you'd have to say, well, the free market's the one that's filling those rents, that's filling that up. Those homes are selling. So the sold data is what we're using to come up with the price. The rent data is what we're using to come up with the market value of that rent. I don't understand how they're going to win the lawsuit and say it's price fixing when it's market data. Does anyone have any insight on this? What am I missing? How is this different from price fixing houses? If they could say this is rent fixing, couldn't they say that we're price fixing houses by doing comparative market analyses and using algorithms and computer software to come up with prices of homes in a particular neighborhood? And if I was just really good at it, if I was really good at running those numbers, then would I be the one that's, the price fixer? I don't know. It's if it's based on sold data or data that a property rented for, isn't that just market data? I don't understand. What am I missing? Drop it in the comments. If you think this is illegal and price fixing, tell me why and tell me the difference, because I don't see it. This would be, so in some MLSs, you put how much a property sold for, and then that gets entered in there as a sold comparable. In some MLSs, you put rent numbers in there, and this is what it was listed for rent, and this is what it rented out for. And that data is available on some portals, and agents have access to that data so they can do price comparisons. How's that different? How's this software different? It's on the actual rents paid. That's what you want, right? As opposed to the publicly advertised rent. I don't understand. That would be saying like it's on the actual sold data versus what the listing said it was, what it was originally listed for. Someone help me. Help! I need somebody. All right, drop in the comments. Tell me why this is different, because I don't get it. In the meantime, let's look at some Redfin data. So we have a couple of different Redfin articles about exactly what's happening in the market. I thought this was an interesting one. More than 3 in 5 home listings are now stale as record high costs dampen demand. We talked about this. Was it last week where we talked about Mike Delpreet's article about the homes being delisted? That is going up astronomically compared to historical data. We also talked about the price decreases that are happening around the country. In my area, it's 41%, but that also compares to same time in 2020 and 2019. We're also at 40%, so we may kind of be returning to a bit of normalcy. But this number is high. So 3 in 5 home listings are now stale. That's 61.9% of homes that were on the market in May have been listed for at least 30 days without going under contract. That's up from 60% a year earlier and roughly 50% 2 years earlier. The share of homes sitting on the market at least 1 month has been increasing year over year since March, when growth in new listings accelerated, but demand from buyers remained tepid, as it has been since mortgage rates started rising in 2022. More homes for sale paired with slow demand means that less desirable listings are piling up. That's a key phrase here. Less desirable listings are piling up. That's a big note for us. If a property doesn't have that cute factor, is what I call it. If it's not a super desirable property and there's, a lot of interest, it's going to sit if it's not priced exactly right. But inventory is still a gigantic issue. It just can't outpace the issue of high interest rates. Logan Matashami, he posted on his Instagram new listings data this week in 2011, 399,146 new listings. Listing data this week in 2024, 72,061 listings. That's a gigantic difference in the number of listings. So it's not the inventory issue. It's the affordability issue. So here's a chart that shows the stale inventory raising for the last 3 straight months. That's just over here, this little blip up here, the last 3 months. You'll also notice the craziness that happened in the years of COVID. In the beginning of 2022, you have a huge spike upward towards 10. And then it went all the way down to, what is that, negative 23? That's crazy. And then it went back up towards the 13 number or so in 2023. And we might start to see more seasonal adjustment here. So, and before that time, from 2013 to 2000 and right at 2020, it was just small ebbs and flows up and down from -5 to just over, it looks like just over maybe 1 or 2. So now we're up 2 points since May 2024. 2 in 5 listings are sitting on the market for 60 days or more. So here's the portion of homes sitting on the market for 60 days. Looks similar to the other chart. It's just a slight increase on that one. So long days on market are happening. All right. So what's happening in your market? Drop in the comments. Tell me what's going on. Are you noticing a slowdown in the market? Is it because buyers are pulling back? Why? Who was that? Who's the politician that did that? Why? Who was that? Oh man, he had like a preacher's haircut. Oh man, who was that guy? Anyway, I can't think of it. Y'all know who I'm talking about though, right? All right, housing market on Florida's west coast are cooling faster than anywhere else in the U.S. with supply rising and demand falling. So the fastest cooling U.S. markets are in Florida. Here's a chart ranking the U.S. housing markets from coolest in blue to the best in red. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see this. So we have a slight cooling right in Little Rock. That's what we're feeling too. But yeah, the Florida's west coast is deep blue. So of course there's some places in California that are red. You got you got 3 little light blue shots in California. And you who know your geography in California, I mean, you could tell me where those are. I have no idea. And you also have some super red hot places over on the East Coast. But there's some definite cooling Midwest in Texas. There's some cooling Oklahoma, cooling. So yeah, it looks like prices and markets around the country are cooling a bit. So housing, let's see, Northport's housing market is cooling the fastest, followed by Tampa and Cape Coral. There are 3 other Florida metros in the list of the 10 housing markets that are cooling the quickest. Orlando comes next, followed by Denver, Houston, Minneapolis, Jacksonville, Florida, Lakeland, Florida, and Dallas. Dallas, a cooling real estate market. Who would have thunk? There are several reasons. Increasing intensity of natural disasters. Everyone knows that there's a lot of coastal cities, especially Florida, that are having trouble with insurance. So the cost is going up. Surging new construction. Florida is building more new homes than any other state in the country, aside from Texas, which is also home to 2 of the nation's 10 fastest cooling housing markets. A building boom coming at a time when high prices and mortgage rates are dampening home buying demand. So the oversupply of inventory is cooling competition. Sky high insurance cost, natural disasters, which we already talked about, and soaring home prices. Although prices in some parts of Florida have started declining in recent months, homes are much costlier than before the pandy and the home buying boom, when many affluent remote workers moved and pushed prices up. You remember when everyone said you can work from anywhere? So people are like, oh, I'm going to go to second home markets. I'm going to work from there. That is what everyone did, but that's a changing. If you haven't heard, there are a lot of companies that are now calling back employees, saying, come on back. So home prices are falling in 3 Texas metros, Portland, Oregon, and high rates cool demand for former hotspots. This is what we just talked about, kind of the same article, just a different spin on it. So Bonnie Phillips, a Redfin premier agent in Cleveland, said there's no getting around the fact that it's expensive to buy a home right now, and some people are not having luck negotiating with sellers. She said, I've seen buyers get a home under asking price when it's been on the market for a few weeks. That's especially true when their agent presents market data that supports the lower market value. Are you guys doing that? Are you running some comps for your offers and saying, hey, pick our offer because we're legit and this is a legit price that you should take? I'm thinking a lot of agents are probably looking at that and saying, I've been telling you the same thing, and look, this agent knows too. So that's an idea. All right, U.S. asking rents ticked up for the second straight month in May, hitting the highest level since 2022, and it's all RealPage's fault, allegedly. Allegedly. The median U.S. rent rose 0.8% year over year in May to $1,653. That's the highest level since October 2022. That's the second consecutive increase. Rents climbed 0.9% year over year in April, following 11 months of decreases. And I may have missed some Instagram comment. I'm going back. Okay, no, you're good. Somebody ping me. So America's asking rents hit the highest level since 2022 in May. So yeah, the highest level we had in 2022 was 1,700, and now we're at 1,653. We did go through a lull here, and it seems to be going back up. So, but before the pandy, it was 1,345. In May of 2019, it was 1,345. The highest it got before the pandy was 1,356 in July. That is a huge increase. Apartment prices closely tied to apartment supply. Multifamily construction surged during the pandy. We've talked about that before. Everyone on Clubhouse knows there were syndicates everywhere. Demand from young renters remains high. For the past 3 quarters, rental vacancy has hovered at 6.6%. It's the highest level since 2021, though it's worth noting that the vacancy rate is no longer growing like it was during the pandy. That's interesting. The vacancy rate was growing as well as the prices. You see the peak was 2022, January 31st, 2022 was peak vacancy at 17.5%. Is that right? No, this is asking rents. Sorry. I'm sorry. The vacancy is up here. I was about to say, this doesn't make sense. So U.S. asking rents rose for a second straight month in May. This is the year-over-year change in the median asking rent. So this percentage is the year-over-year change. I'm sorry. That makes more sense. That goes with this chart up here. So the rate of increase had gone down for a long time, and then it finally did decrease. All right. We talked about, when was this? 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? Maybe 3 weeks ago. On the show, we talked about the number of investors that were kind of pulling back from the market a bit. But we also knew that those numbers were a little delayed, but I was still experiencing that in our market, and it may just be the cooling local in our market. But it does seem that the slight increase in vacancy rates, the inability to continue to push rents up, has made them reconsider their initial acquisition price. So we are seeing that. The investors that we're still working with, they're going in much lower initially. And they're still holding some pretty high expectations if they're a flip, or pretty high expectations if they're trying to rent it back out. And we're doing our best to counsel them in that and kind of tamp those expectations down a little bit. But that is something we're still seeing. Okay. So how rate sensitive are mortgage loan originations now? So there was a brief drop in mortgage rates, and CNBC said it caused a huge surge in demand, but it may be short-lived. So the average total mortgage application volume surged 16% compared with the previous week. And the average contract interest rate for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage with conforming loan balance of $766,000 decreased to 7.02% last week from 7.07. So close to getting to the sixes. So let me find that applications to refi a home, which are most sensitive to daily moves, they climbed 28% last week. Applications to purchase a home rose 9% for the week, but were still 12% lower than the same week a year ago. But applications to purchase rose 9%. So did it feel busier for you guys? For me, it felt busier last week. And I don't know if that was exclusively tied to the rates. I think it was a lot seasonal, some seasonal stuff in there. But it was definitely busier for us last week and this week. We're getting way more inquiries. So I think the summer started later. No, I feel like right now is how it used to feel towards the end of March. That's what we're experiencing right now. So it's still delayed. I feel like the cyclical nature of the market has not recovered since the whole COVID thing. It's all just changed, and now it's a couple of months later. So mortgage rates didn't move much at the start of this week as investors are waiting for the results of the monthly inflation, which came out today. It was 3%, so it's still not hitting the 2% target from the Fed. So the likelihood of us seeing a rate drop today is probably zero. So they'll probably just leave it higher for longer. Everyone's expecting that it would just stay higher for longer. But there was a slight drop in mortgage rates. Okay, so how are Americans viewing real estate as a whole? So this was a fascinating article from Broke Agent Media. Real estate is the number one long-term investment for 36% of Americans. A recent Gallup poll shows 36% of Americans rank real estate as the number one long-term investment. This is compared to gold, stocks and mutual funds, savings accounts, CDs, bonds, and cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency making an appearance since 2022. That's cool. Let's see. The second one was stocks and mutual funds. You had, looks like 22% of Americans thought stocks and mutual funds were the best long-term investment. 18% said gold. 13% said savings CDs. 4% said bonds. And only 3% said cryptocurrency. What's up, Henry? Henry says, yo, 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 over on Instagram. What's up, man? So let's see. Consumers value safety and stability over massive returns. For 36%, the best long-term investment option isn't necessarily the one with the biggest potential for returns. These consumers rank safety and stability higher on the list of desirable qualities for investment vehicles, which is kind of normal. If you're talking long-term, then yeah, you're talking stability. After all, even if their value doesn't grow as quickly as they hoped when they bought the home, it still gives them a place to live. So it's a multifunction investment. You can't live in stocks. That's what a guy told me many, many years ago. Stocks are a good investment, but you can't live in them. So some homeowners are leveraging their home equity to make down payment on rental property and bring additional income as investment strategy known as house hacking. I have to say also that whether you're left, right, middle, or whatever, the Biden administration suggesting that you take out a home equity loan to buy and pay for stuff because prices are so high, don't do that. That's not a good strategy. If you want to take out a home equity loan and invest it in something like other pieces of real estate that will also continue to go up in value and give you a place to store more money, then yeah, I can understand that. But don't take out a home equity loan and just buy stuff because stuff's expensive right now, please. Matt said, come on, man, I like ice cream.
It's better with Biden impression, but
I tried. I tried a little bit. Did you hear? I mean,
come
it was a
on,
little
man.
bit.
Come on, man. Like ice cream.
That was pretty good, actually, Matt.
I've had 4 years. I've been working on it.
I mean, I think now though, if 4 years ago you would say, "Come on, man, I like ice cream." Now you'd say, "Come on, man, I like ice cream." I think that's maybe better.
Turn International. Where am I? What's going on?
Yeah. Where am I? Okay, so sorry.
Too soon.
It's too soon. So don't. My point is, don't pull out your equity and go buy stuff because inflation's high right now. I also want to point out that people today, you'll see it all over the news. Inflation's only 3.3%. No. That's how much it's gained recently. If you look at inflation since I think it was 2019, it's like over 30%, guys. So yes, this is still a bad problem, which is why the Fed is going to keep rates higher for longer. And I'm wondering right now if we're ever going to see. I got him. I'm wondering right now if we're ever going to see rates in the fives again in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. I don't know. I think it's going to take a long time to get through all this. So Brian Vendig, president of NJP Wealth Advisors, said we allocate alternative investments for clients, including real estate, around core, traditional portfolios, stocks and bonds. Real estate is not only a great hedge for inflation, but also generates tax advantage income. So the perceptions of the biggest long-term investments, lower income, who make less than $40,000, 33% of them view real estate. Their number 2 is gold at 23. And then their number 3 is savings accounts and CDs at 20. Middle income earners, 36% of them think real estate is the top investment. Next is 21 with stocks. And then it goes down from there. Upper income, 40% believe cryptocurrency. Just kidding. All you crypto guys. No. 40% say real estate. So if you make over $100,000 or more, 40% of you believe real estate is the number one investment. 31% stocks and mutual funds, 14% gold. The cryptocurrency sits at 2% for upper and middle income, and only 3% of those in the lower income think it's a good investment. And now they are saying long-term investment. If you ask a short-term investment, it's probably going to take real estate and put it at the bottom. That would be an interesting question. Which one is the best short-term investment? And then go back through here. I bet stocks and bonds is number 1. Or stocks and mutual funds, is number 1. That's what I would put in the comments. What you would put as the best short-term investment. I would probably go stocks, then crypto, then savings accounts, CDs, bonds, and gold. I'm not a huge gold believer because if the stuff hits the fan, people are like, oh, you always need to have gold in your portfolio because if stuff hits the fan, you'll have something to barter with. If the stuff hits the fan, nobody is going to look at a piece of gold and say, well, I'll fix your car for that. No, I just don't think it's going to happen. They're going to say, I'll fix your car if you come mow my lawn. It's going to be a barter and trade of stuff that you do for people. So, all right, steady home price growth adds to consumer confidence. Steady home price growth adds to consumer confidence. So judging by the data on home price growth over the past couple of decades, home price growth is pretty much a given. So we all know that home prices are continue to go up, and they're going to continue to go up every year. What's up? Oh, I can't repeat that one. Judging by the data on home price growth over the past couple of decades, you could see on this chart from what's the time period? 1990s, 2000s, 2010, and 2020. So we had the biggest growth in the 2000s, but every decade you can see is going up. So home price growth it's just going to happen. Now, home prices may grow slower. You'll see the headlines, home price gains slow, but I don't think you're ever going to see something that says that they decline again. Not for years and years and years. There's just not enough inventory. Like we could go right back to that Logan Matashami tweet Instagram post that compares the 300,000 new inventory to 72,000 inventory. I mean, we're years away from getting out of that. So Resi Club, Lance Lambert is the one that runs the Resi Club. Really cool dude. Go follow him on Twitter, and you can also subscribe to the Resi Club email, and they'll send this stuff out. So the 2020s stand out with a higher level of home price inflation than before the midpoint compared with the previous 3 decades. I'll zoom in for, there it is. All right, so let's see what happened with the Fed. What's up, Barbara? I just saw you join on Instagram. You too, Cassie. Hi. Okay. Where do I need to go? CNBC? Oh. Oh, wait. I got to do the breaking news sounder. Hang on. No one spoil it. We have it. Here it is. Breaking news from This Week in Real Estate. All right. You may have been expecting it. You may not have been expecting it. I think most people were expecting this. The Fed holds rates steady. Indicates only one cut coming this year. This is a bit of a departure from what he said previously, indicating that maybe it will be time for 2 cuts. It looks like there's just going to be 1 cut. So we may not get into that 5%, as yours truly just said. So the Fed holds rates steady, indicates only 1 cut coming this year, with markets hoping for more accommodative central bank. Federal Open Market Committee policymakers, following their 2-day meeting, took 2 rate reductions off the table from the 3 indicated in March. I don't think anyone, after we saw the growth, even in March, there were people saying, nah, there's not going to be 3. The committee also signaled that it believes long-run interest rate is higher than previously indicated. Forecasters released this week's 2-day meeting indicated only slight optimism in inflation remains on track and headed back to the Fed's 2% goal. So, quote, inflation has eased over the past year but remains elevated, the post-meeting statement said, echoing language from the last statement. In the only substantive change, the new statement followed with, in recent months, there have been modest further progress towards the committee's 2% inflation objective. So the previous language said there's a lack of further progress. So now there is some progress. So there you go. The Fed holds rates steady. And that's all I got for today. So thanks everybody for joining. If you're just now tuning in and saw the breaking news, we just did like a whole hour of news. We talked about everything that's happening in the real estate market, so be sure to go back and check that out. Don't forget to do all the YouTube-y things and subscribe. Hit the bell so that you can be notified of when we go live and you can join the show live. You could also join us over on Clubhouse every week. But if you're just now tuning in, you're like, man, I missed the whole thing. In about 2 hours, it'll be uploaded to your favorite podcatcher. So catch us there, download the episode, let me know what you think, shoot me a message. I'm Ray Zorback, RayZorback. Thanks everybody for joining. I will see y'all next week.